Take a moment now. Think back to the last time you said sorry. Not because you truly hurt someone, because you thought you might have inconvenienced them, or because you needed help, or because you were simply taking up space. I notice it in myself when my anxiety ramps up. And the sorry for list, it's endless. Sorry for breathing too loud. Sorry for taking the last cookie. Sorry for texting you twice in a row. Sorry for asking a stupid question. There are no stupid questions, at least not in my world. Sorry for sneezing again. Sorry for laughing too loud. Sorry for laughing too quietly. Sorry for moving my chair. Sorry for interrupting. That's a big one for those of us with ADHD. Sorry my bracelet clinked. Sorry for emailing you during work hours. Sorry for emailing you outside of work hours. Sorry I didn't know the answer. Sorry I did know the answer. Sorry for making eye contact too long or too often. Sorry for not making eye contact enough or at all. Sorry for needing directions. Again, that's one I'm guilty of. Sorry for talking about my cat or my dog. Sorry for wearing the same sweater as last week. Sorry for moving too slow. Sorry for moving too fast. Sorry for existing. You get the picture. That's like a whole lot of sorry. And maybe you're laughing right now because you've said half of those things this week alone. But here's the thing. This isn't just about being polite. If you grew up with undiagnosed ADHD, you know what I'm talking about. The report cards that we got, here's my favorite one from mine. With concentrated effort to be an astounding student. The comments about being late, disorganized, distracted, the times you were told to just try harder, use a planner. Dr. William Dodson, a leading ADHD expert, says by the age of 12, children with ADHD have received about 20,000 more negative messages from parents, teachers, and other adults than their peers without ADHD. 20,000. By middle school, many of us had already internalized that we were wrong, or broken, or lazy, or stupid, long before we even opened our mouths. Heck, in middle school, we might have just closed our mouths. And here's something else I see all the time, especially in women who weren't diagnosed until later in life. We often end up using anxiety as a way to manage our ADHD. It's not intentional. It's a survival mechanism, much like masking. When your brain struggles with activation, anxiety can feel like the only fuel that's going to make it work. The racing thoughts, the elevated heart rate, the constant what if loop, it push you into motion when nothing else will. Over years, that can become your default operating system. Think like habits. You're not just experiencing anxiety, you're relying on it to function. And that anxiety amplifies, lose that word, the sorries, right? Because now you're not only managing ADHD, you're managing the fear of disappointing people before it even happens. Here's the thing no one talks about. Every automatic sorry is a tiny act of self erasure. It's like taking a piece of you out of you. It tells your brain, I'm wrong by default. It reinforces the belief that your needs, your pace, your way of being are inconveniences that must be excused, or maybe we should say apologized for. And over time, that shapes your identity. You start to believe you are the problem. You shrink before anyone else can shrink you. You speak softer, take up less space, keep your ideas to yourself. That's the grief in this conversation. Grief for the years you muted yourself. Believe me, we don't just mute ourselves in middle school, we carry it through, right? Grief for the confidence you might have had. Grief for all the times you stayed silent when you had something powerful to say. One of the things I love about being almost 60 now is I'm just going to say what I think. Oh, well, no apologies. But every now and then, we get these reminders of what it looks like to be unapologetically yourself. And for me, one of those reminders came from Taylor Swift. Y'all didn't think I wasn't going to start talking about the Orange album, did you? Because of course I am. So let's talk about Taylor Swift's new album, Life of the Showgirl. After all, I'm not the only one talking about it. I watched her interview on New Heights this morning. 2 hours. I don't know how I squeezed that in. I'm up really early. I was a reluctant Swiftie, late to the party, so to speak. Think the Taylor's version years, speak now in 1989, but in 2022, 23. I was never a little bit country, and I was always a lot rock and roll. My college daughter started to get really into Taylor Swift in the later years of high school. So my real intro into the world of Taylor Swift was when she played on a School of Rock show. And she played bass or guitar, I can't remember which. She's mostly a singer. Music, good beat, amazing lyrics, so relatable, great lessons. And I started to follow her because of her message. And I admired her marketing and business acumen. I still do. So because we were late to the party, we missed purchasing Eras Tour tickets when they were actually being properly sold in the US. So over the course of several months, many months, I kept trying to scalp tickets in the US, StubHub, etc. No luck. And in fact, I was nearly scammed 4 times. I wasn't scammed at all, thank goodness. So I promised my daughter we'd put in for the pre-sale in Europe, quite frankly, thinking we'd never get them. But I was up at 3 a.m. one morning to purchase Paris tickets, and the website crashed. Then we tried again at 5 a.m. Unbeknownst to us, that website was still crashed. Seriously, we figured we'd never get them. But at 6 a.m., I shook my daughter awake. We had tickets. Vienna, night 1. Even if you're not a Swiftie, you might remember that there was a terrorist threat in Vienna, and all 3 shows were canceled. We had just arrived to Vienna, and we're in the hotel room late that night when we heard of it. And so we kind of had to just make the best of it. I promise you, there were many tears shed, mostly from my college daughter. But I've never felt so many wonderful fans or felt more welcome in the city of Vienna. And I bring all this up because one of the things I admire the most about Taylor Swift is her complete, unapologetic ability to be herself in all her too-muchness, her foibles, her quirks. Taylor embodies go big or go home. I mean, watch the Eras Tour on a video, you'll see. And apparently so does Travis Kelce. He can really match her energy. He doesn't feel intimidated by her. And I have to say, I wasn't his biggest fan in the beginning, but now I think they make an amazing match. So when we were in Vienna, the Swifties were unapologetic too. They were definitely too much. And I loved every minute of it. We had so much fun singing in the streets, exchanging bracelets. And in that sad and scary moment, well, really, 3 days, because that's how long we were there, I feel like I did a few days after 9/11. No damn terrorist was going to knock me down or stop me from living my life. In fact, we went to a baseball game, World Series game, right after 9/11. Little did we know, Vienna was just the middle of our era story. Because as soon as we got home, I started scouring sites for tickets. And then I had a total YOLO moment. I purchased Miami Night 1, new Reputation bodysuit, baby, for the two of us. Literally in the last row, because that's what we could afford. Brutal. The fees were crazy. We called it our Redemption Tour. We just wanted to be there live so badly. I'm going to give special thanks to my mom, aka Granny, who bought my daughter's tickets, and to all the travel points we cobbled together to make it happen. There was a great deal of logistical juggling and lots of midnight friendship bracelet making. I'm so not crafty, but I rose to this occasion. I was determined. In Miami, and got into the car for the concert. My daughter dressed as Mirrorball, me dressed as Reputation, arms loaded with friendship bracelets. If you know, you know. We both agreed we weren't going to really believe it was happening. After all, we'd had so many disappointments. Not until she sang her very first note, then we'd know it was real. And we agreed that we'd probably both cry. And, teens and crying moms, not so much, but she knew she was going to too. And I have to say, we did. And I'm going to be lucky if I don't cry telling the rest of this story. Because from the moment that show opened until the very last note, we didn't leave our seats. I did take a quick, really fast ladies' room break. Callie never left to sleep. It was pure magic, even from the very last row. And sitting in that stadium with my daughter, surrounded by thousands of people singing at the top of their lungs, I realized something. This wasn't just a concert. It was what it feels like to show up fully, to take up space, to live in your too-muchness without apology. It was the opposite of all of those years of shrinking. And that reminded me of something Taylor said in the New Heights interview this morning. So this is how we're tying this all together. She said, think of your energy like a luxury item. I was like, let that sink in. Think of your energy like a luxury item. If our energy is that precious, why are we wasting it on apologizing for existing? There are so many better places we can expend our energy. Like grace. Grace can look like not shrinking yourself to make everyone else feel comfortable. Grace is being fully who you are, ADHD quirks and all, too-muchness, glitter, glam, maybe casualness, all of it. And it's about knowing you belong. Grace says, I understand why you learned to apologize like that. It kept you safe. Grace says, we're not doing shame about this. We're doing awareness. Grace says, you're allowed to take up space exactly as you are without a permission slip. This week, I want you to just notice, this is your shift, right? We always shift in the ShiFtshow. Notice when sorry comes out automatically. Ask yourself, did I do something wrong, or am I apologizing just for being? And if it's the latter, I want you to try this swap. Instead of saying, sorry I'm late, say, thank you for waiting. By the way, ADHDers relate a lot. Sorry for venting. You're going to say, thanks for listening. Sorry my house is messy. You're just going to say, thanks for coming to visit me. Because frankly, I think, if you're coming to visit my house, you're not really coming to visit my house, you're coming to visit me. So don't come if you're not just visiting me. This is small, but it's super powerful. You've spent years saying sorry for who you are. Now you get to practice saying, "This is me," without a qualifier. This isn't about never apologizing, it's about reclaiming that choice. When you do apologize, let it be real, not just a reflex. And this is good advice for me too. And when you don't, stand in that silence with self respect because you are not an inconvenience. You are not a mistake to be fixed. You are a whole, complex, brilliant human being. Thanks for watching. Every like, subscribe, and comment helps this message reach more neurozesty, high achieving, overwhelmed women who deserve support. Thank you for being part of the shift. And last but not least, remember this: you're brilliant, bright, and badass. No apologies required.